Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. Today's video is going to be a palette dupes video where we ask ourselves the question, how similar are these palettes and do you need all of them? The answer is always no. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. Today's video is going to be a comparison of 4 rosy toned eyeshadow palettes that I think I just want to sort of swatch out and see how similar they are. Some of these I've featured in other videos in the past as well, but I just thought we could have a bit of swatching fun in today's video to show you those 4. I'll tell you in a minute what palettes will exactly be featured, but before we get into it, I would like to point out that I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, which greatly skews my makeup preferences. I've been buying, trying, and reviewing makeup for a very long time, so I have some very strong opinions, which I hope you're here for, and this channel is all about eyeshadow palettes, Essence, and Catrice, and getting the use out of your makeup. So if you're here for the ride, then definitely click subscribe and join the Snow Angel family. Let me get to these palettes. So what do I want to feature in today's video? I thought we could compare some rosy things. 2 of these have been put into a palette battle before, where I think I put it up to Urban Decay Naked 3 and Sigma New Mod. But today, I thought we could do Natascha Denona Retro, My Dream, Rose Quartz from Huda Beauty, and Melt Cosmetics She's in Parties. Because I feel that that's another good, deeper mauve tone palette, like the My Dream, and I just wanted to see how similar they are. And I've said in the past how I feel the My Dream is like the more saturated of the version of the Natascha Denona Retro. And I've always felt that the Natascha Denona Retro and Huda Beauty Rose Quartz replaced my my Urban Decay Naked 3. So that's why I thought I could put these up to the test in today's video and give you some swatches. Before we get to the floor and do the swatches, there's a timestamp in the description box. Don't worry, if you just want to see the swatches, you can. You can. But let me tell you a little bit about these palettes individually first. So Natascha Denona Retro, if I show you this, it's going to be a mess. Oh no, there's more cracks in these shadows. But this is one I wanted to show you before I reorganize some of my Natascha Denona eyeshadow palettes, because that's still on the list. That's something I'll be doing for you in May, and we're going to be reorganizing some Natascha Denona palettes. This has already been reorganized because I was silly and dropped it, and some shades popped out, which is why some of them have cracked and they're now very crumbly. Oh well. I'm sure they'll live. They'll be fine. I can repress them quite easily. But yeah, the Retro from Natascha Denona, when this dropped, I was like, yes. But for, my love for rosy mauve tones, is this really rosy mauve tone anymore? So now that I've had this for a while, I feel this may not be as rosy toned as I wanted to. Like, if I look at this palette, the rosy tones I go for are these plummy things, and maybe this. But everything else, I'm like, I would never really go into this corner with these warm tones. Like, there's pinky tones here, but I don't feel it's very rose. I mean, I love the taupey shades we get in here. Those I love. I like that shimmer a lot, which I believe was actually the other way around. I don't remember. But yeah, so maybe it's just not that mauve. Which is why I wanted to do this swatch video and feature it here. But yeah, Natascha Denona is one of my favorite brands when it comes to eyeshadow formula, but I do feel color story wise the brand it's just not it, which is why I don't own all of them, and which is why I think of rearranging some of them as well, because I'm like, I'm gonna get more use out of these if I can create color stories that I enjoy more. That's just the way I feel by now. I love the formula, really great quality shadows. The color stories are just incredibly lackluster. So if we then consider the My Dream, I hope, I kind of bought this with the thought of is this necessarily my palette? No, because we get a lot of warmth here. However, as I was trying it, I felt it wasn't as warm as it looked. It was more neutral leaning, but it was darker, more so than warmer, I feel. So I feel this has shades that go really well with the glam, but it's almost like an amped up version of the Retro, I feel. Like, These plums are just a little bit more saturated. We get some taupey shades as well, but then a little bit deeper. So I just wanted to swatch these side by side and see how similar some of these shades are. You know, just to have a gander. And here again, like this rosy gold shade is really very similar to the one that cracked in my retro. So I just want to see how similar they are before I sit down to rearrange them so that I have some of those swatches done already. And then I just thought, for funsies, let me see, because if I now think of like my favorite rosy tone palette, I'm thinking of this. This is a lot lighter than the retro or the My Dream, the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz. It's got a great formula. I love how it's got like the very pink things, but then it also has the rosy taupey things, and it's got a little bit of warmth. I tend to skip those warmer shades though. Like I tend to use this. This is the palette for me. And in my brain, and when I talk to you about like my top 10 favorite all-time eyeshadow palettes recently, I put this in and not the retro, because the retro has just, it's not been dethroned. I still like it. I just don't feel it offers exactly what I want from a raw rosy mauve tone palette. And I feel that this tickles that itch a bit better, which is why it had to go into the comparison. And then when it comes to like deeper rosy mauve tones, this is actually my favorite palette. The She's in Parties from Melt. I used to own this as a stack, but then they extended the shades, and I think there are just so many shades in here that make it work a lot better for me, because we get some more lighter things mainly. But this is again very saturated, and I just want to see, I think this is warmer than the Natascha Denona My Dream, but I just want to see how this compares to some of the shades in the My Dream, so that I can take decisions on what to keep and what not when I rearrange my Natascha Denona shades. Great formula. Melt is another one of my favorite eyeshadow brands. Not all of their palettes are my favorite, so again, I don't own all of them, but they do a lot of really good things, I have to say. And this one is one of their best ones. So if you were to buy just one Melt palette, I would recommend this one. So that's why all of those palettes are here. Let me get down to the floor and do some swatches. Right, so here are the 4 palettes. Let's compare them, open them up for a minute. I have to block the mirrors to not blind you with my makeup wipes that I'm going to use to take off the swatches. So let's have a look at what we think may be similar. And as I already mentioned, I definitely think there's going to be a little bit of overlap between these two. And maybe some of this as well, more so than this. But then, for instance, I looked at this. I'm like, that's actually quite similar. So this, maybe that we can compare. So let me just start there, starting off with some mattes. And there we have that comparison right there. So I think that the one from the Huda Beauty is actually the one that has the strongest, like, pink leaning undertone, and then you can just see how much warmth the retro and the My Dream actually have, compared to, you know, the Huda Beauty just looks straight up pink compared to these, which is now I'm realizing that this is one of the reasons why I probably like this a bit better. But for instance, this and this, I think I can compare. Why do I always start with the mattes? I don't know. And then this gray tone, it may be this one. My arm is still a little bit wet. Ooh. Oh, that's like the worst swatch ever. Can you see that? So this one, these two, very similar. Like I think I like the one from the Melt better though, but this is very pink, and then this is really stunning. It's got that grayish undertone, really nice cool tone, and then the one from the Natascha Denona just looks straight up warm tone next to it. So, another reason why we like the Huda Beauty a little bit better. Is there anything else that we see that is similar? Maybe some of these like taupe shades? Shall we? Again, you can just see how purple this is. And then we'll just throw this one in for good measure. So we'll do the Natascha Denona ones first, because then we have that comparison. This is straight up purple. And then we have the Melt, which is a lot lighter. So here's Natascha Denona Retro. That's the My Dream. warmer and deeper. And then this is the Huda Beauty. And here's the Melt, which is a bit more sheer. It's just a different formula. So, yeah, I do really like that shade. Yeah, and then we're going to do those rose gold ones. So let me do this one and this one, which are, again, you know, two sort of things in a similar vein. With just a slightly different undertone. Deeper, slightly different undertone. I think there's nothing really rosy, like rose goldish in any of these, but we can perhaps say this, maybe this from the Huda Beauty. Okay, so we were comparing shades and then my camera battery died, but I swatched these two and I don't think they go with the two rose gold ones that I just swatched out from Natascha Denona. I think that maybe this and this should be compared as well. This one's very fragile. The biggest damage, ooh, very different. Here's the Natascha Denona, and here's the Melt Cosmetics one. Maybe put this one there, and this one as well. Ooh, that looks pink. And that's that purple, which I believe those are cream to matte. So they're not like, they don't swatch the best. They're nice formulas, but they're not the best in swatches. And then just for funsies, we'll grab this and this as well. I didn't need both of those shades in the Natascha Denona Retro, like these two. I really didn't. Super similar. I think that maybe this, and this matte, we should also compare. I know this is going to be a very different undertone, but just to give these deeper tones a chance. Yeah, so the Melt Cosmetics one is far more plummy. So do you just see that these are essentially just neutral palettes with a pop of purple? Like, they're not that rosy now that I compare them. Okay, hadn't realized that before. Let's do some like peachy. Like this one is definitely not a peach, but like this is more of an orange from the My Dream. But this is very pretty. It was a shade I didn't think I was gonna like because I don't normally like those shades. But this one, I think we do need to compare to this. This is like a peachy gold. Ooh, maybe this. Those are close-ish, but I feel this is far more peach than the other two. Like, this one comes close, because it's got that, like, shift to it, the Natascha Denona. And the Huda Beauty doesn't really have the shift, though. This one is more like a soft gold. Does Melt have anything like it? Maybe Skeleton Kiss can be put here, but that's more of like a pink. And then I look at it, like in the pen, these look quite similar, but I don't think they actually are. Wow, not even close. Look at that. That's so different. And that's like the deepest shade you get in the Natascha Denona too. I told you, I like their eyeshadow quality, but their color stories, look at how bright that swatches. It's, again, save for the black, that's the deepest shade you get. I don't think there's anything that's as dark as this in any of these palettes. I can swatch these like lighter pinks and compare them to, like, these are some of my favorite shades in this retro palette. These like lighter things. And let me see how it compares to some of these things here. So this is more of a purple, but this and also this, I feel can have a similar function. I'm not saying they're the same, but look at like the Huda Beauty ones. They're far more dimensional. I think I like those better. Oh no, I'm really sort of now wondering why I have so many Natascha Denona eyeshadows. I love the formula. It's definitely a formula thing for me. And now that I compare these, I've just confirmed that for myself. I definitely think that we also need to have a look at some of these like warmish things that are going on in here. So let me do some mattes, but again, I think this still has a very, like if we put this one on first, oh, I'm covered in shimmers now. Look at that. It looks very warm toned compared to everything else. But then when you swatch it, it's still very pink, but none of this is probably going to be very pink. I think this is going to be the closest thing. Oh yeah, here the Natascha one is a little bit more pink for the first time, or lighter anyways, but it's definitely more peachy rather than rosy, I feel. And then if we take the one next to it, that just looks like a brown. And again, how different is it to this? Probably not that different. Oh well, I think it's going to be different. Like, how is that the deepest shade in this Natascha Denona palette? I don't get it. Maybe I swapped these around. I don't know when they fell out. I don't remember. But yeah, that's insane. Insane. Just insane. And then if we take this and this, like these two I feel are too similar within the palette. And these are far more brown toned. Like, do you see how much yellow that has compared to the other ones? And then I don't think we even need to swatch this. Because that's very brown. Do you see that? The Huda Beauty one is still my, like, look at, like, compared to everything else, like, this looks very warm compared to this palette, and I don't gravitate towards these shades at all when I open up the Huda Beauty, but I'm getting a completely renewed appreciation for those Huda Beauty shades, because out of all of these, the Huda Beauty one is definitely my favorite. I think we're nearly there in terms of, like, what I can show you comparison-wise. Is there anything that we still need to, like, we could do some of these golds, but I know they're not going to be the same. Like, we've already seen how peachy this is and how gold this is, and we do get a, like, lighter gold, but this is more of a taupey gold. It's like a cool champagne, this Huda Beauty one. I like that. That's very, very, I love that shade. That's one of my favorite shades in this entire palette. And it doesn't compare to this either, right? We already did that comparison. Like, Huda, like the Natascha Denona one is warmer. Just has a warmer undertone. And of course, the Natascha Denona has this multi-chrome, which is always fun to swatch. Which is, again, one of my favorite shades in this palette. It's this, like, ooh, straight up, like it looks like a bright pink, right? And then you move your hand, and then it looks green. And in this light, it actually looks peach as well. So it's definitely like a multi-chrome. I love that one. But if you don't want to buy this entire palette, if you want just that shade, buy Pink Frog from Glam Shop. It's much cheaper, and it gives you the same thing. Like, it's the same kind of shade. Is there anything else that I still need to compare? I think I've covered most of this palette, and I've covered most of this palette. I've covered most of these. Shall we see what this shade looks like? Ooh, that's very pretty. But again, I don't have anything like it. Like this Skeleton Kiss shade maybe, but that's just a little bit peachy. But that's like a similar level of shimmer. And then this. I always say how I don't like these pinks in the Huda Beauty, but again, a renewed appreciation for the Huda Beauty has come to the forefront for me, for sure. And then, of course, we get those purples, which I haven't even taken a look at. So let me see how these compare to this, because I think that's going to be a shocker as well. Look at how blue that is. So stunning! Like, it's another, like, duochrome kind of thing. And this is very blue toned as well. And then we're gonna, oh. If you just compare it on the, like, this is the Natascha Denona shade. It looks berry. Like, that's not even a purple compare, like, the Huda Beauty is definitely in a league of its own, man. It really, truly is. So I don't know about you, but I feel very justified pulling these apart now that I've done these swatches, like even more than I already thought I was gonna enjoy pulling apart my Natascha Denona palettes. I just know that I don't need all of this. And like compared to the Huda Beauty, this is so neutral. yeah, this is definitely one where I'm just gonna have to take some shades out. Like, I love that shade. I love those two shimmers. I love these taupes. I like that shade a lot. But I'm not even sure I like these purpley shades anymore now that I've swatched them. Wow. This is very unexpected. I didn't see that one coming at all. But yeah, I think a good reminder that indeed going about and rearranging Natascha Denona color stories is something I definitely need to do. So to round out the video, I would just like to thank you so very much for watching me today. Thank you so very much for being here. I hope you enjoyed the video, that you got something out of it, because that's always my aim with these. And that maybe if you have some of these palettes, or maybe if some of these were on your wish list, or if you were thinking, oh, I missed out on this one, why did I should buy it at some point, that now you have the info you need to take decisions and help you in your makeup journey. That's what I'm hoping. So thank you so very much for being here today. Thumbs up the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more by me. I make several videos every single week, so if you'd like to stay tuned for more, and then I hope to see you in my next one. Bye-bye!